You've spent 30 years working, paying bills, raising kids, telling yourself you'll save more next year. Then one day you sit down, do the math, and realize the retirement you imagined is not the retirement you imagined is not the retirement you can afford. And at 58 years old, there's nowhere near enough time to fix it. That moment is not rare. That moment is happening to millions of people right now. Quietly, privately, at kitchen tables across the country, people are opening spreadsheets and feeling their stomach drop. Because the retirement they pictured, the one with travel, comfort, dignity, was never actually being built. It was just being imagined, and there's a brutal difference between the two. Here's the number that should stop you cold. The median retirement savings for Americans between the ages of 55 and 64, the people closest to retirement, is roughly $134,000, not $1 million, not even close to $1 million. $134,000, that's not a retirement fund. That's a speed bump. At a standard 4% withdrawal rate, $134,000 generates about $5,300 a year. That's $441 a month. You cannot retire on $441 a month. You can barely survive on it. And yet that is the reality for the median American worker after decades in the workforce. So where does the $1 million dream come from? Financial advisors put it on brochures. Retirement calculators spit it out as a target. Every personal finance book has a chapter about it. It's been sold to us as the finish line, the standard, the normal outcome of a responsible working life. It's not. Retiring with $1,000 saved puts you in roughly the top 10% of all retirees, maybe less. Depending on the data set, some estimates put it closer to 8%, which means for every 100 people who retire, fewer than 10 of them cross that line. Think about that. You could line up 100 people at the end of their careers, people who worked hard, people who weren't lazy, people who had good intentions, and 90 of will retire without $1 million saved. That's not a personal failure story. That's a systemic pattern, and it has specific causes. The first silent killer is lifestyle inflation, and it is relentless. You get a raise. Instead of saving the difference, you upgrade. Nicer car, bigger house, better vacations. The raise disappears into a higher standard of living, and your savings rate stays exactly the same, or gets worse. It feels like progress. It looks like success from the outside. But financially, you're running faster on a treadmill that's speeding up. You're earning more and saving the same percentage of nothing. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain wide open. You can keep turning up the tap. But until you close the drain, the tub never fills. The second silent killer is debt normalization. At some point, carrying debt stopped feeling dangerous. It became background noise. Car payments, credit cards, student loans, a second mortgage. We stopped seeing debt as an emergency and started treating it as a lifestyle feature. But debt is not neutral. Every dollar you send to a creditor in interest is a dollar that will never compound for you, never grow, never work while you sleep. It's gone, permanently. In over 30 years, the interest you pay on normalized debt can easily exceed the retirement savings you never built. That's not a metaphor. Run the numbers on a $15,000 credit card balance carried for 10 years at 22% interest. The math will make you physically uncomfortable. The third silent killer is the most insidious of all. It has no dramatic moment, no obvious damage. It just whispers, quietly, year after year, you have time. I'll start saving seriously next year. Once the kids are in school, once we pay off the car, once I get the promotion, next year becomes 5 years. 5 years becomes 15. And one morning you're 52 years old and the window that once felt infinite has quietly become very, very small. Compounding interest is the most powerful force in personal finance. Einstein may or may not have called it the eighth wonder of the world. But whoever said it was right, the magic of compounding is real. but it has one non-negotiable requirement: time. And time is the one thing you cannot buy back. A 25-year-old who saves $400 a month at a 7% average annual return will have over $1,000 by age 65. That same person, starting at 35, saves the same amount and ends up with roughly $480,000. Same discipline, same monthly contribution, 10 years difference, a $520,000 gap from 1 decade of delay. That is what I'll start next year actually costs. Not in theory, in dollars. Now let's talk about the two neighbors. Same street, same income. Both make $75,000 a year. Both have families, mortgages, car payments, the normal weight of a normal life. Neighbor upgrades his car every 4 years, takes 2 vacations a year on credit, eats out 4 times a week, carries a balance on 2 credit cards, tells himself he'll get serious about saving when things settle down. Neighbor B drives the same car for 9 years, takes 1 vacation, paid in cash, cooks most nights, has no credit card debt, automatically transfers 15% of every paycheck into a retirement account before she ever sees it. 30 years later, same street, same income, completely different lives. Neighbor A is working at 67 because he has to. Neighbor B retired at 62 because she could. The gap wasn't income, it wasn't opportunity, it wasn't luck. It was a series of small, quiet, unglamorous decisions, repeated consistently over 3 decades. And here's the uncomfortable truth that sits underneath all of this. A comfortable retirement is not the default outcome of a working life. It never was. We were sold that story, and most of us believed it without checking the math. The $1 million retirement isn't waiting for you at the end of the road just because you showed up and worked hard. It has to be built, deliberately, systematically, starting earlier than feels necessary and continuing longer than feels comfortable. But if almost nobody makes it, what is it that the rare few who do actually have in common? Is it income? Is it luck? Is it some financial secret the rest of us were never taught? Or is it something simpler and far more confronting than any of that? So almost nobody makes it to $1 million. You know that now. The numbers are clear. The patterns are real. And if you've been honest with yourself reading this, you've probably already done the quiet math in your head. Where you are, where you need to be, and how wide that gap actually is. But here's the question that matters now. What makes the 10% different? Because it's not what most people think. It's not a higher salary. Studies consistently show that high earners blow through money just as efficiently as everyone else, just at a larger scale. A doctor carrying $400,000 in lifestyle debt is not winning. A teacher with a disciplined saving system and zero consumer debt might be. It's not inheritance. Most millionaire retirees built it themselves, slowly, quietly, without a windfall. It's not luck. Luck might give you a head start, but luck doesn't show up every month for 30 years and move money into a retirement account before you can spend it. What separates the 10% is behavior. Specifically, a set of boring, repetitive, unsexy behaviors executed consistently over a very long time. And the first and most important is this: they pay themselves first, always, without exception. Not what's left over at the end of the month. Not when things calm down. Not after the bills. First, before anything else moves. This isn't a mindset tip. It's a mechanical system. The money moves automatically, straight from the paycheck into the retirement account, before it ever touches a checking account. Before it can be spent on something that feels urgent, before lifestyle inflation can absorb it. When saving is automatic, it stops being a decision. And that's the point. Because humans are terrible at making the right financial decision in the moment. We're wired for now. We feel today's dinner reservation more vividly than we feel a retirement that's 25 years away. So the 10% don't rely on willpower. They remove the choice entirely. Think about what that means in practice. If you set up an automatic transfer of $500 a month into a retirement account today, you will miss that $500 for about 90 days. Then your lifestyle adjusts. It recalibrates. And that $500 is building silently in the background, compounding month after month, year after year, while you've completely forgotten to miss it. That's not sacrifice. That's engineering. Now let's talk about the compounding curve, because most people misunderstand it completely. They think compounding is a straight line. Save consistently. Watch it grow steadily. That's not how it works. Compounding is a curve, slow and almost invisible at the beginning. Then it bends, and when it bends hard. The first $100,000 is the hardest. It takes the longest. It feels like nothing is happening. Most people give up somewhere in here because the progress feels invisible and the sacrifices feel very real. But cross that threshold and something shifts. The curve starts to steepen. The money starts making money faster than you can contribute it. By the time you hit $500,000, the compounding alone is doing more heavy lifting than your monthly contributions. That's the engine. But you have to stay on the track long enough for it to fire. Here's the plane analogy. A plane taking off needs most of its fuel during takeoff. The runway is where it burns the most energy for the least altitude. But once it's airborne, once at its cruising altitude, it burns far less fuel to cover far more distance. Your retirement savings work the same way. The early years are the runway. Slow. Expensive in terms of discipline. Easy to abandon. But if you lift off, if you get through the first decade with consistency, the flight becomes easier. The compounding does the climbing for you. The tragedy is that most people abandon the runway before they ever get airborne. Now, what if you're starting late? What if you're 45 or 50 and the runway is already shorter than it should be? The rules change. But the game isn't over. Starting late means you can no longer rely on time to do the heavy lifting. So the monthly contribution has to be larger. The lifestyle has to be leaner. The timeline to retirement may need to shift. These are not comfortable conversations, but they're necessary ones. A 50-year-old who aggressively saves $2,000 a month for 15 years at 7% returns will have approximately $620,000 by 65 times. Not a million, but a real, livable number. Far better than the median $134,000. And infinitely better than doing nothing because the situation feels too far gone. Done is better than perfect. Starting late beats never starting, always. But here's what silently destroys late starters before they even begin. The psychological enemies. The first is the neighbor's driveway. You look left, new SUV. You look right, backyard renovation. Your brother-in-law just booked a European cruise. And somewhere in your brain, a voice says, I should be doing that too. That voice is not your friend. That voice is a price tag. And that price tag comes due at retirement. The people in those driveways with the new SUVs, you don't see their credit card statements. You don't see their retirement account balances. You're comparing your financial reality to their financial performance. And their performance is mostly borrowed. Stop watching the driveways. Watch the spreadsheet. The second psychological enemy is the absence of a number. Most people have never, not once, sat down and calculated their actual retirement number, the specific dollar amount they need to retire with dignity. They have a vague feeling that more is better, and $1 million sounds right, but no concrete target. Flying without a destination is not a financial strategy. It's a hope. Your retirement number is specific to you. It depends on your expected expenses, your lifestyle, your health costs, your timeline. But here's a simple starting point. Take what you expect to spend annually in retirement and multiply it by 25. That's your target. That's the number your savings need to hit for a 4% withdrawal rate to sustain you indefinitely. If you expect to spend $60,000 a year, your number is $1.5 million. If $40,000, it's $1 million. If you've never done this calculation, do it today, not next week. today. Because here is the final uncomfortable truth. The gap between retiring broke and retiring with $1 million is not income. It's not luck. It's not talent or education or the neighborhood you grew up in. It's a series of small, boring, consistent decisions. Made quietly, made repeatedly, made even when nobody is watching and nothing feels exciting and the progress feels invisible. The 10% who make it aren't special. They're just consistent in a world that rewards impulse. The clock is running. It never stopped. And every month that passes without a system in place is a month of compounding you will never get back. The question isn't whether you want $1 million retirement. Everybody wants it. The question is whether you want it enough to be boring about it every single month for the next 20 years. Because that's exactly what it costs.